Welcome to this special edition of the Scooby Panel. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com, and today we're going to be talking about the first look of the Velma series that came out yesterday. So before we begin, I'll have everybody introduce themselves, and Derek, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Derek Queen. I am the co-host for that Groovy Scoobcast, a Scooby-Doo podcast, and then I also run the Do Central Instagram page.
Wendy?
I'm Wendy Brydge. I'm a 30-year Scooby-Doo collector and a commission artist.
And Cameron?
Hey y'all, I'm Cameron. I run Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too, and I've just been a lifelong Scooby fan, Scooby-Doo collector, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So this is going to be fun. Before we really get into talking about it, I'm just going to go through the timeline real quick of when we first found out about the series and what we found out since then. So February 10th of 2021, it was announced that Velma was a Scooby-Doo prequel series, that it would be on HBO Max. Mindy Kaling would executive produce the series and she would be voicing Velma. Charlie Grandy, Howard Klein, and Sam Register would be executive producers as well. It would be an adult-focused animated comedy series. And the series would serve as an origin story of the bespectacled and underappreciated brain in the Scooby Gang, offering a look at the complex and colorful past of one of Scooby-Doo's beloved mystery solvers. Then June 10th of 2021, they revealed that Velma would be of East Asian descent. And Tom, I don't know how to say his name, Asim, I don't know, president of Warner Brothers Global Kids, yeah. He said, "We have a not for children Mindy Kaling project called Velma because she was excited to reimagine what Scooby-Doo would be like if Velma were of East Asian descent and lived in a different world. And in that version, which is going on HBO Max first, there's no dog and no van, but we have our 4 key characters, though a different lens, and I think it's great. Allowing our creators to play with our IP is super powerful." And then on May 18th of 2022, we got the first look at the very first image that came out of the Velma series. And we see a girl with her head split open and a bunch of naked girls around Velma. That image was released and the internet went crazy. And it's been a little crazy ever since. So let's talk about this. What are your thoughts on what's your first impression based on what we've known and what this image is of this Velma series? Pam, let's start with you.
When I very first saw that image, I was at work and, my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything that was connected to my Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too accounts just went crazy. And I didn't know what was going on. So I clicked on it and the first thing that popped up was that image. And I was like, okay, I don't know why I'm seeing this image. How is this connected? And so I just got off it and kept scrolling. And then I was like, well, hold on. So I went back and people were saying, oh no, this is the new Velma. And I don't know, y'all. I've had to really stop and think about this. And I knew that we were going to be talking today and what to say and how to be careful. And I guess my biggest reaction is, why is there a girl with a half, with her head cut off and her brains on the ground and half naked, girls around? And I understand everybody's saying this is an adult series, but like, is that really, do we really need to see that? You know what I mean? I don't know. When I think of Velma, Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, Fred, Daphne, and I know everybody says I sound like a broken record, but why do we have to have all this, sexual, all this sexual stuff in there and this violence? I mean, people say, well, I want, a little bit more adult content Scooby-Doo. Okay, if that's for you, that's fine. But like, think about Zombie Island or Scooby Natural. you know, even though they were darker and maybe they were a little violent in some situations, they always kept Scooby-Doo light. They always kept, you know what I mean? And Mindy Kaling may shock me. She may do the Velma series and it may be, you know, lighthearted and funny. I just seeing that one picture, I don't know, it put a really bad taste in my mouth. I think when it comes out, I think I may just give episode 1 just a chance. I just want to see what's going on, you know, but I just think it's going to be a little hard when you take Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine out. To me, that's not it's not really Velma. But anyways, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I can't just really, I've really had to stop and think about things because I can't, like I said, I can't judge a book by its cover. You know, I'm starting to see a lot more darker Scooby-Doo stuff rise to the surface on social media and fan made things, you know, just, and I don't know. I like the lighthearted, fun, you know, loving Scooby-Doo. That's what I grew up with. And, you know, I don't know. That's what kind of where I am right now. It's kind of a weird thing for me. I will say, you know, looking at the internet and seeing all these people's comments, reactions, you know, I got on Instagram the day that it came out, the day that the image got released where Mindy Kaling was up on stage speaking about it. And I kind of just gave my 2 cents about it, how I was just like, it's kind of, to me, and just from that image, I can speak for that image alone. It's kind of disrespectful to the Scooby-Doo franchise more than 50 years. And, you know, I just don't understand. And the girl to the right of Velma looks just like Daphne. And you have Bubbles, I guess Soap Sud Bubbles, covering her breast and her lady business. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Do we really need to see that? You know, I don't know. That's kind of where I am at right now. And I've read some of the funniest comments. I mean, and it's been more comments, people saying, why do we need this? You know, and I've read some negative comments and I've also read some good comments and people being optimistic about it. So, you know, we'll just have to see where it goes, I guess. And here's my thing. We can talk about this all day long. Other people are going to talk about it all day long. We can't stop it. You know, it's going to be made, you know. But, you know, like I said, it's, I've learned a hard lesson in life, and the hard lesson I've learned in life is that if you want something in life, you got to go for it. But are you gonna sacrifice your core values? Are you gonna sacrifice, you know, what's right, what's wrong, just to get to where you need to go? And I truly believe, and I will say this: if Liam Hanna and Joseph Barbera were alive today and they saw that, I think they'd be really, really upset. So that's me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna watch the first episode and we'll see how it goes, because, you know, to me, I feel like they released that image for shock value. You know, how can we get people to be interested in this? How can we make people talk about this show? Well, you release an image like that and you're gonna do it. You know, you're gonna piss people off. You're going to make some people happy, but you're going to get people talking. And, you know, it's crazy, but the internet is broken. I mean, yesterday, people were blocking each other because they didn't like each other's opinions. Huh. Well, I'm sorry, but like, I saw this. I wasn't happy with it. I posted it. I posted that I wasn't happy about it. Maybe I shouldn't have posted some of the other comments that I did. You know, I had said, and it's true because we've had animators say this to us in interviews, that they don't like the new cartoons, the way that they're going with the new cartoons. They feel like they have taken these characters that were beloved and really that they created and they worked hard on, and they have completely changed them and made them unrecognizable. I mean, it's true. And somebody took offense because I said that the animators don't like what they're doing, and it just became a whole thing. But, you know, you don't have to block people because they don't agree with you. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. And if we all think the same way, life is going to be pretty boring. So, you know, everyone can have their opinion. We can all get along. Like it's just how life is. And you're not always going to have people around you that agree with everything that you do and everything that you say, you know? But I do think that that picture was maybe not the best image to release as the first thing, you know, because I feel like it was too much. That maybe had they released something else that was more toned down as the very first thing to release, then maybe people would have been more excited about the show and not, you know, feeling like, oh, this is too adult, or oh, this is going to be great, or, you know, whatever. I heard so many different comments from people on social media. Everybody is just all over the place. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, they are free to make a show however they want to make the show, and people are free to watch it or not watch it if they choose to, you know. Wendy, what are your thoughts?
I have so many thoughts about this, and in a way, I don't really know what to say because it covers such a wide range of, honestly, emotions. Primarily, I'm a little bit embarrassed for myself thinking about it now, that when I saw the image, it was kind of like, oh, a cut off head. Like, we're so used to seeing things that are graphic and inappropriate in a sense that there is truth to the idea of being desensitized to things. And the older I get, the more I look back on times in our history, you know, you don't have to go back very far, where, you know, the explicit nature of things, where, just for an example, in the 80s and rock and roll music, and, you know, that those, the mothers that hated bands like Motley Crue, which that's my favorite band. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just commenting on something that happened in history, and I see now how it has progressed. And they were worried about how explicit content and explicit lyrics, how all of that stuff was going to affect children who were being exposed to it. And everyone laughed at them and said that they were crazy. And that explicit warning label that got slapped onto music became why certain people wanted to buy it. And it's fine to say, oh, well, see, we're fine. Nothing bad happened. And yet, did it though? Is it not just that things have gotten to such a point that we don't even recognize what's good or bad anymore? That a cartoon girl with the top of her head cut off and blood all over is such a non-event that it didn't even register with me what was in the picture? And it was only when I thought, wait a minute, this is supposed to be Velma from Scooby-Doo. This thing that I loved when I was a child and that was made for children. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, Wendy, like, you're even aware of this, and you still fell prey to it. And so I'm a little embarrassed for myself that that was my first initial reaction, was they did it for the shock value, and I wasn't even shocked by what they showed. That's a problem to me. That's my opinion. I think that that is a problem. I love what Cam said. I agree 10,000%. And that made me think that I wanted to take this in a slightly different direction than what I thought I was going to bring up. But I'm an adult. I'm 35 years old. I have been an adult for a very long time. You know, when you're young, 35 seems crazy old. And then the closer you get to it, you're like, this isn't old. Like, it's not old. And yet, no, it is old. 150 years ago, if you lived to be like 50 or 60, you were doing really great. You know what I mean? Like, things have changed that have extended our lives, and that's great and everything. But, you know, I am an adult, and I'm bothered that people say, well, I want a more adult version of whatever. I don't care what it is. If it's Scooby-Doo, if it's Velma, anything, I don't care. I am sitting here as an adult saying to these people, What is it about death, murder, sexuality, nudity, vulgarity, any of these things that fall under today's 2022's umbrella of what we consider to be adult entertainment? What is making that entertainment for adults? Because I'm an adult, and you know something, I don't want that. And that's not me being some kind of self-righteous prick, okay? I'm a Christian, but I'm not a prude. I don't actually have a problem with adult cartoons. I love Family Guy. I laugh at all of those jokes, and a lot of them are really off color. And a lot of them are hilarious. I love them. I watch that show all the time. So it's not like I'm a prude that just doesn't like these things and thinks that there's no place for it. Okay, that's not what's happening here. But I'm an adult who has seen a lot of death in my life. My mom died when I was really young. Everyone in my family, what small family I had, everyone had kids when they were older. So I grew up going to a lot of funerals because everyone in my family was old and dying. I have seen people abused. I have seen my friends fall into situations that nearly killed them. I have seen all of this adult content. I have lived it, and you know what? It sucks. It's that simple. It sucks. So who decided that all of these terrible things, the worst things about life, what's worse than murder? You know what I mean? And not just, like, I'm not saying anything justifies murder, but there's murder where something happens, maybe it's an accident, maybe people got upset, and then there's murder that's like slasher type, where there's no reason for it even. It's completely mindless, just killing for the sake of killing, which there are so many shows today that that's what they are. It is killing for the sake of killing. That is not something good for anybody, okay? This goes far beyond taking a children's property and making it something that's not appropriate for children. This is something where I look around and I'm scared. I am scared that this is the society that we live in, where that crap, if you don't like it, well, you're not mature and you're not an adult. Excuse me? Like, if these people that are making this stuff and they think that it's great and they love, like, they just want to soak it all in, listen, if you have had such a wonderful life that you don't know what it's like to live through that shit, I am glad. I would not wish that on anybody. Okay? I'm glad if you don't know what that's like. But you shouldn't have to live it to see its effects. All you have to do is open your eyes and look around. There are girls that get taken and they're raped and abused and left in the streets. There are places, even in North America, where people are gang raped on the street and people stand around and they watch and nobody does anything. They watch. Can you even imagine if you were walking down the street in your town and some girl was getting raped in the middle of the street by a bunch of men? Would you just walk by? It sounds like a really extreme thing, but this is what people miss, is that all these things, they start somewhere and they grow and they build on it. And every time that we turn away from something that we see is inappropriate, or maybe it's not good for us, here's the thing. Just because you can do something, just because you can eat something, just because you can say something, doesn't mean that you should. Do people have the right to do whatever the hell they want? To a degree. To a degree. Doesn't mean you should do it. And I'm really, literally, with every day that goes by, I am seeing this stuff and I'm like, what is the world gonna be like in another 50 years? Like, when I'm grandma age and I'm seeing what's going on, I'm gonna be seeing the results of shows like Velma, people taking that in being even more desensitized to it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Kaling said somewhere in the last day or so that it was going to be like an authentic high school situation. When I was in high school, there were no dead bodies in the hallway. Just, I mean, I know I live in like Northern Ontario, Canada, and we're way up here in the sticks. I get that. And people make jokes about polar bears and igloos and stuff like that. But that's not normal high school life, nor should it be. And I can just see things like this, maybe right here and now for the majority of people, it's not a big deal for them to watch it. But I see where this kind of thing leads, and I don't think that it's a place that we should be going. People need to pay more attention to history. Kids hate history in school, and I think, oh, you just repeat it over and over again because you never pay attention to what has happened in the past. And so for me, this is something that is way bigger than being pissed off that we're once again taking something that was made for kids and we're destroying children's ability to enjoy it. You know, it goes way beyond that. I just see so much negative stuff waiting to follow something like this, and it just makes me really, really sad. And I think that Cam and Nikki were both right that if the people that created Velma in the first place could see what is being done to their intellectual property, okay, I'm sorry, Warner Brothers, you had deep pockets. Now you own the character so you can do what you want. I get that. But you will never be the owner of that in my mind. Joe and William and the artists and the voices that came long before the people that are pulling the strings now, they're the owners. And it really bothers me that intellectual property is such a free-for-all today. And I really think that a lot of the people that want to take something that's already established and they want to make it something totally unrecognizable, I really think that, you know, they think that they're being creative, like, ooh, I'm going to be edgy. We're going to do something that's never been done before. And that's fine. But when you have to do it on the back of something that's already been established, you're not being creative. And the fact that you have no respect for someone else's intellectual property shows me that you're not a creative personality at all, because you don't know what it's like to have created something from the ground up, a part of your soul, a part of you. Make no mistake, there is a piece of Joe Barbera and William Hanna in every single character that they ever had a hand in creating, a piece of them. And anyone who works in like a creative field knows that feeling. You put a piece of your soul into everything that you do. And people that don't respect other people's work and they think that they have a right to just go ahead and do whatever they want with what someone else has created, you've never created anything in your life. That's why you can't understand. And that's really unfortunate, because if the day comes where you do have something that is a piece of yourself and you put it out there for others to enjoy, and then you have to watch as somebody else younger and better than you is going to school you on your own idea, it's not a good feeling. And I would not want someone else to make me feel that way. So I don't want to make anybody else feel that way either. And I think if you want to have something like this project, do it. But don't call it Velma. Can you not make your own totally original character? Literally change nothing. Don't change that image. Don't change the trajectory of your story. Don't change how people look in it. Don't change a damn thing except the title and who you are saying this character is. Why not? why are you taking this thing that exists and changing it when you could do something amazing and make this brand new thing? Why? This is the other question that comes up when I look at that image is why? Why is it Velma? She could even look the same. But just don't try and link it with Scooby-Doo. It's really not hard. I would like someone to explain this to me. Like, what is the drive behind that? Unless it is that you are just trying to pimp out that character, because that's kind of what you are. If you're whoring that character for your own gain, you're a pimp. And to me, that's what I feel like they're doing with Velma. Have your series, do exactly what you want to do with it, but make it your own intellectual property. And I really think it would go a lot further. You don't need an established fandom to back your project. You shouldn't. If you do, then again, you're just ripping off ideas from other people and you're capitalizing on their hard work because you don't want to do the work yourself, and that's not cool. Do the work yourself. Let your character, let your voice be heard in your way. That is totally acceptable, and you should. It's good to have things that are diverse and different, but stop taking things that don't belong to you, because Scooby will never belong to anybody but the fans and those people that created him. I don't care who's got the most money and who talks the loudest. That's who Scooby belongs to, and Velma will always be compared to Scooby-Doo. You can't separate them just because there isn't going to be a dog or a mystery machine in your series. You know full well that in people's minds they're associating Velma with Scooby, and that's what you're banking on. And it might be good business in the sense of it'll make you money, but it's a dirty way to do business, in my opinion. And I think that even her idea deserves better than what they're going to give it, based on the fact that they're just building on something that already that was never meant to be this. And by trying to do this, they're alienating people that might otherwise really like what they were coming up with and could appreciate something original, because I don't appreciate it. If it was its own thing, I could probably appreciate it and I might even like it, but I can't like it because they have made that association, and I personally don't agree that the association is appropriate.
Yeah, I think the three of us, sorry, Derek, you don't always fall into the way that we think, I guess, but which is not a bad thing. But you know, me, Wendy, Cameron, like we like the wholesome, as Cameron says, the wholesome Scooby-Doo, you know. I mean, for me, I really liked Scooby Natural. And if they did a series like that, I think it would be really good. But to me, that's as adult as I want Scooby to get. Like, I do feel like there's a line that shouldn't be crossed. And, you know, this picture that we saw, it crosses that line for me. And, you know, I don't know that I'm going to like it. If the series is like this, I'm probably not going to like it. And I'm not telling other people not to like it. Like, if you want to watch it or you think it's great, that's good. You know, there's so many different iterations of Scooby there's something for everybody. This is just not for me from the first picture that I've seen. Once the series comes out, I might change my mind. I don't know, you know, but this just is a little too adult for the way that I want Scooby to be. Derek, what are your thoughts?
Wow, okay, I heard a lot of thoughts just now, this last little bit, that I really want to contradict, challenge, and also just give my own view. And before I say anything, I respect all of your opinions. I respect all of you very, very much. I think you're all really great people, great friends. I really only agree with 2 points that were made over the last few minutes. One being, I don't think that this image was the best choice for being the first image we see. I think when I think of like an introductory image for a cartoon or a project like this, I think of like when Be Cool Scooby-Doo was announced and they finally showed the artwork, and it was like the 5 characters like posing on like a generic background. That's kind of what I saw coming. I thought it would be like, you know, Velma, Daphne, Fred, Shaggy, maybe in front of their high school with some of their supporting characters, because you know it's not just going to be them 4 in this show. So I think that this image was not necessarily the best choice. However, I do agree that it does give shock value and it does get a discussion happening. But I think that's only because, and I think that the only reason why they did it was because we haven't heard about Velma in a long time. I don't remember when it was that we all talked about this, but we talked about it recently that we just had not heard anything about Velma recently. And I'm like, when's the last time I heard anything about Velma? Is it even still happening? I don't know. And then this happens, like, oh, yep, it's happening. It's happening. And then the other point that I think I would agree with is that I don't think that William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, and then Joe Ruby, Ken Spears, Eiichi Takamoto, anybody who worked on the original series, no, I don't think that it would necessarily, you know, be of their approval or their standards, because they definitely were not producing that kind of content then. However, I don't think that adult content like this is devalued just because of how shocking or what's a good word for it? Not shocking, but like just visceral. I don't think that necessarily devalues the project as is. And because they've been stressing about it from the start that it wasn't going to be kid friendly, I immediately turned my head to, okay, so how shocking is it going to be? What are we actually going to see on the screen? And it kind of makes me think about previous Scooby-Doo projects who have tried to push this limit before that I don't think I've seen as much backlash on. One that I specifically thought of was Scooby Apocalypse. And, you know, I think that really was because it was a comic book. It wasn't necessarily on the screen where most Scooby-Doo fans are consuming their Scooby-Doo content. But with Scooby Apocalypse, I didn't see really all that much backlash about it. You know, I mean, you know, there's obviously going to be some people who won't like it, but most people were on board. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do gory Scooby-Doo. Let's see characters die and gores and guts and all that. And, you know, so people who are like critiquing Velma because we're seeing this image and seeing, you know, the girl with her head chopped off, it's like, that's not even the worst we've seen in Scooby-Doo. That in terms of actual Scooby-Doo licensed canon, that is not the worst we've seen. Scooby Natural is another good example. And Nikki, I hear what you're saying, where, you know, that's kind of the most adult or most graphic you want to see in Scooby-Doo, and that's fine. But I don't think I really ever heard any people who didn't like Scooby Natural. I think most Scooby-Doo fans actually thought it was pretty cool. I fear that, and I'm not suggesting anybody here or anybody in the greater Scooby-Doo fandom that are critiquing the show are going to touch on the topic of race, because that's also a thing that's unfortunately part of the conversation for some people. To which I just say, well, this isn't even the first time we've seen Velma be Asian. You know, we've seen Haley Kiyoko portray her in 2 movies. Like, and you know, I've had to evolve in my thinking over the last decade when it came to characters, you know, being portrayed at different races, and I'm all for seeing that. So I'm thankful that, like, that's not really the critique I'm seeing here in this conversation, but I thought it was a valid point to make right now, because that's just unfortunately what I'm seeing as well on Twitter and Instagram. People are like, why is she, because some people are even assuming that she's black, and I'm just like, no, well, for one, she's not black, she's East Asian, and 2, what does it matter? But in terms of the actual story, I think that when it comes to art, when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to a franchise like this, where it's spanned over 50 years at this point, you know, everybody who originally worked on the show has long passed. And if we want to see Scooby-Doo continue, we have to have new people come in. And inevitably, yeah, it's going to introduce new ideas. It's going to take Scooby-Doo in different directions. And it's not going to always be respectful to what the original creators wanted. But I think that Scooby-Doo would not endure for the long haul if it wasn't being given this kind of treatment here and there. Obviously, Velma doesn't represent the majority of the franchise. It's not even out yet, and it's not, and it never will. It never will represent the majority of Scooby-Doo content. There's always going to be the original Where Are You? There's always going to be the slightly edgier Mystery Incorporated. None of that's ever going to go away because they did one season of Velma, and the Scooby-Doo fans who decide not to watch it, I really hope that it's good enough to where I can say, you missed out. And I'm not saying that to you guys specifically. I'm just saying, like, I really hope that it's going to be a good Scooby-Doo project and that there's going to be some good coming of it. I don't think that this image is going to necessarily represent what the entire show is. I think that's, you know, one of the main themes, but that's not going to be the entire show. I think that there is value in it because it's different, because it's going in a direction that we have flirted with before, but we haven't full on gone for the first kiss, really. I think that fans have been asking for a very long time for Dark Scooby, and I mean, here's a good example. You know, recently, you know, some of us were complaining about, like, you know, Funko going in a weird direction with Scooby-Doo and being really capitalistic on it. And we've met people who are producing Scooby-Doo merchandise who really love it. And we really appreciated that they came to us as Scooby-Doo fans and they wanted to hear our opinions and what we wanted. And you know, all of us were like, yes, let's do this. Let's suggest this. Let's suggest that. And they loved it. They loved to hear it. And while some of us may be some of the more prominent, you know, fans in the fandom, we don't speak for everybody for the fandom. We don't speak for everyone's opinions on what we think Scooby-Doo should be. I think Scooby-Doo can be anything, personally, so long as it's not, I don't even know where my line really is at this point, but I'm just glad they're still making Scooby-Doo, personally, even if it's a Scooby-Doo project where we're kind of focusing on one of the other supporting characters, one of the more popular ones, I would say. Velma is definitely up there. I think she kind of surpasses Shaggy, in my opinion, in terms of popularity. I think it's like Scooby, Velma, Shaggy, Daphne, Fred, in terms of popularity. But to my point about us being like happy that we were being heard, there's a lot of fans who have been wanting dark and, you know, more graphic Scooby-Doo, and they've really only ever gotten it in the form of the Scooby-Doo comic books or Scooby Natural. And now they're being given this, and I'm hoping that they're satisfied, because I think I'm going to be. And I think it's ultimately a point of the producers wanting to finally give a certain sect of the Scooby-Doo fandom what they want and what they've asked for. This isn't something where you can say, who asked for this? No, people have been asking it for a while. I've seen it. I've been one of those people. Mystery Incorporated came very close. Scooby Apocalypse was there. Scooby Natural was there. Velma's just that next step. And Velma's not going to be the only Scooby-Doo project that they're working on. You know, they're still working on Scooby-Doo comic books. We know there will probably be another direct-to-video movie sometime this year, even though I'm shocked that they haven't announced one by now. Regular, wholesome, kid-friendly Scooby-Doo content is always going to exist, and it's always going to be coming. We know that Scoob holiday special is going to be coming out like in December. Velma's just going to be that blip where some people stick with it and some people don't. And I'm sad that this conversation is happening on social media the way it is, because it's reminding me of in 2015 when Be Cool Scooby-Doo was being teased and everybody was hating that series before it even came out, because we saw that image of the 5 characters posed on the background, whatever, and like, oh my god, it looks like Family Guy, or it looks like a Seth MacFarlane project, or what happened to Scooby, it's like he, you know, is doing drugs and he's like, you know, whatever. And it turned out to be one of my personal favorite series. I love Be Cool Scooby-Doo. We are always rejoicing about it on the Scoobcast. I don't think that the first image is always going to be a good representation of what the series is going to be. And I think that Velma falls in that category. So I'm in defense of Velma here. It's not the best image that they could have shown, I think, for the first one. But I think that it's going in a direction where fans have been wanting it for a while. It might not be what everybody wanted or even what the original creators would have wanted, but art in this format is going to evolve, and it's going to evolve in ways that people don't always like. And it needs to evolve because otherwise it's going to stay stagnant. And then we don't even need any more new Scooby-Doo at that point. And I don't want to ever see a day where that happens. And if one Velma series comes out that people don't like just for the sake of the broader Scooby-Doo content coming out and continuing to go forth, I'm happy to see it. I'm excited to see it. I will be following it just as well as I've been watching every other series. And I'm going to try my best to love it, even if I don't, because, you know, there are series that I love and I also really hate, but it's all Scooby-Doo and I'm still glad it's around and I'm still glad it's going to be coming. So I'm excited to see what happens.
There are a lot of people who have been asking for an adult Scooby-Doo. That is true. People have been asking for that for years. And I mean, they're definitely going to get it with this, it looks like. I remember when we first talked about this, just to talk about it, I had said that it sounded like it was going to be like a Scooby-Doo version of Archer. And that's kind of what the picture reminded me of, is that it would be similar to Archer. So Mindy Kaling did respond on Twitter to some concerns, and I'm just going to read what she wrote. She said, "Hi guys, great to hear your voice. Like you, Charlie Grandy and the writers love Velma, as do I. She's a brilliant teen and leader. The situations she's in aren't horrible, we promise. They're legit scary mystery stories where she's the protagonist. She's funny and real teen. And her past isn't troubled, it's spooky. We are so psyched about her and can't wait to talk to real deal Scooby fans like you closer to release. It is more adult, but real to authentic high school life. Yes, that's why it's fun, but also why it's worth doing. We got you." And that's where Wendy, you said, she said that it's authentic to high school life. Well, like you, my high school was nothing like that. So, yeah.
I'm just questioning if it's not really like the murder aspect that she's talking about with that, but more so what a high school looks like today for the real culture. Because, you know, they've talked about this kind of leaning into the long held belief that Velma was going to be LGBT. And that is a more common thing that you see in high school life now in this more accepting world. So I think that's what she probably means when she says that. And the murder mystery aspect of it, not so much. I think that's just going to be the plot, not necessarily the setting that's going on here. That's what happened with Riverdale. If anybody watches Riverdale, it's kind of like that perfect high school life, and it has all the generic tropes that you always see in, you know, regular high school life, and then it has a murder in it. So it's not unheard of, or it's been done before. Velma's not breeding ground there.
I think for me, it's hard to imagine anything else other than just what's in this picture, you know, because the series hasn't come out yet. We haven't seen anything else from it. This is the only thing that we've seen. So like my brain is like, okay, death and nudity and, you know, like that just doesn't work for me. But you're right. Like, I'm sure that this entire series is not going to be like all the supporting characters are walking around naked and, you know, there's dead people everywhere. I'm sure that there's going to be more to it than that. And like I said, I will give it a try. You know, I'll watch the first episode and see how it is. And it could be great. It could be horrible. But we don't know really based on this image, but everybody had an opinion when they first saw this image. And, you know, good or bad, the show is going to happen. And we do still have all the other Scooby stuff that we can watch. So if we don't like this, we have a ton of other stuff that we can fall back on, you know, and then the people that want the adult content can have it. They can watch this show. If, you know, the rest of us don't really like it, that's fine. You know, that is the good thing about Scooby. And Derek, like you said, if they don't take Scooby in different directions, there will come a point where we won't get any more Scooby at all. So maybe this is good. Maybe this is, you know, they're giving the people the adult content that they want, and hopefully that will be enough. So maybe when they do come out with more series, they'll be a little more, you know, tame, toned down, not quite nudity and death. Cameron?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but you know, I like I said from the very beginning of this, you know, when I jumped on and I gave my 2 cents, I received some people saying, "Hey, I totally agree with you," and then I received a lot of negativity towards me. You know, that's where I kind of get a little bit. I'm just gonna say it. I get pissed off because you know, I think it to myself, I'm a human being. I have my own opinions. You know, it breaks my heart today too that, you know, everything is focused on you know, that comment she made, you know, is it adult? Yes. Is it real high school life? Yes. You know, I mean, why do you have to mix adult life with high school life? It's 2 separate things. You know what I mean? And if you really, you know, from articles I've read about when Velma got released and what Mindy Kaling, you know, talked about, you know, she said, I want to, you know, I want a show that can really, you know, inspire young women. You know, here's my thing. What if you just, you know, made a show about regular Velma, you know, from Scooby-Doo, and her being wholesome and loving and kind-hearted and not having all this, you know, sexuality and all this other stuff, violence and gore thrown in there. You know, I've heard a lot of people in the past say, you know, Scooby-Doo does a poor job of, you know, having representation as far as people from different races. I'm sorry, but if you go back to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And the Scooby-Doo show, you see people of different ethnicities in different episodes. And, you know, that's my thing. And, you know, here's my thing. Why do we have to take a character that's already been established and tweak them? I don't get that. You know, well, I'm watching Scooby-Doo and I don't feel represented in Scooby-Doo. Okay, but why don't we add a new character and put it in Scooby-Doo instead of taking one of the original characters that has already been established and making it so it suits your needs? You know, I don't know. That's where I kind of get a little, you know, kind of it frustrates me. I'm going to be honest, it frustrates me. You know, and again, you know, me talking about this Velma series, I love Mindy Kaling. I really do. She created a show called The Mindy Project. I don't know if you ever heard of it before. Me and my sister used to watch it. We used to laugh, cry. It was such a good series, you know. That's why I may, you know, give the first episode a chance, because I really do like Mindy Kaling. You know, I really do. You know, but do I get defensive when we start talking about Velma? Yeah, I do, because I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan. I love Scooby-Doo. You know, I want to protect it at all costs. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I wrote a letter to Warner Brothers asking if I could buy the franchise. I was little. I didn't understand. My mom had to sit me down like, you can't own Scooby-Doo. I'm like, oh yeah, I can, but I really want to. You know, I've always been protective of Scooby-Doo. You know, and I don't know. You know, it just kind of, and again, you know, a lot of people were like, you know, you're racist, Cameron, and you know, I've got that. I caught a lot of hell yesterday from me posting on my story. You're racist. You're very against the LGBTQ community. I mean, people went on and on and on, and you know, I didn't reply to some people because I'm thinking to myself, I don't have to justify, you know, myself to you. I don't. I got on there. I spoke my piece. I said what I need to say. Am I against the LGBTQ community? No, I'm not. Am I racist? No, I'm not. But you know, I just that's me. You know, I don't think we should edit or alternate a character. If you want to throw a character that's of the LGBTQ community in Scooby-Doo, fine. I wouldn't have a problem with it. If you want to throw another character in there of different ethnicity or of, you know, whatever. And Scooby-Doo as a supporting character, you know, another character, a new character that we've never seen or heard of before. Okay, fine. You know, I wouldn't make a big fuss about it. But you're taking Velma that has been created, been designed, and then you just want to tweak an editor. You know, and I feel like, and I've got to say this too, and I'm not trying to make this a long drawn out thing, but I feel like in today's society, it's like, if you don't go along with what someone's creating, and then, you know, it's not normal. You know, you don't voice your opinion. You have to agree. You have to go along with what everything is nowadays. I mean, I turn on TV. I want to just sit down and just get lost. I want to sit down and get lost. I want to, you know, I love fantasy and adventure. You know, that's just always been me. And again, I'm not trying to switch over to something different, but I have to say this. I know Marvel is nothing like Scooby-Doo, but take for example, and some people may have not seen it, some people may have seen it, WandaVision. Okay. There was a show called WandaVision. Talked about the Scarlet Witch and Vision from Marvel's Avengers. That show got the best ratings. There was no sex. There was no, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was like a little bit of violence, not like bad, like gore violence or anything like that, but they kept it clean. And it did so well. It outperformed all these other Marvel shows. And it caught so much, you know, rave reviews and all these different things, you know. And then, you know, I went to go to the movie theater and I saw, you know, Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And trust me, I'm tying this
Don't
back.
spoil it. I'm seeing it Saturday. Don't spoil it.
I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay.
But I will say this. Just let me say this. There was a lot of snapping necks in there, like people snapping necks. And I'm thinking to myself, kids were in there watching this. And it wasn't just like a turn your head and you hear the neck snap. Like it's literally somebody grabbing a head and just snapping it in half and throwing the body on the ground. I'm not saying who, Derek. Don't worry. I'm not spoiling anything.
No.
But is that our normal? Is that our normal nowadays? To have gore and violence where kids are going to go in there and watch this. Kids go in there, oh, the Scarlet Witch. Oh, you Marvel. Kids are going to hop on HBO Max, I guarantee you, and say, oh, Velma, click it on. It just breaks my heart, y'all. Why, as a society, do we feel if you want to have representation, if you really want that representation of different ethnicities or the LGBT community, why can't we do it in such a positive, fun-loving way? You know, and I feel like today everybody gets butthurt about everything. I'm sorry to say that, and a lot of people are probably going to just tear into me. It's not the first time I've been torn into a lot in my life, but I'm an opinionated person, you know. But why does everybody get so butthurt nowadays? You know, if you have something to say it. But everybody, oh, you know, if you didn't say it this way, it's not the, you know, proper. Oh, you know, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's almost like today, if you don't say something politically correct, you're going to get torn in half, you know. And you know, Nikki, you first started off by saying, you know, you voiced your opinion on Twitter. You voiced your opinion. You're a human being. And then people start tearing you down. That's sad. You know, that's sad. We live in a world where we voice our opinions and then we start tearing each other down, blocking each other, cussing each other out. You're stupid. You're dumb. I hate you. Threatening. I hope you die. Killing. I've always grown up that I may dislike somebody, but I've never hated somebody. Hate is a very strong word. Murder is very strong, you know, and I get some people haven't always grown up. I've grown up in a very sheltered childhood. I'm blessed for that. Some people have not grown up in a very sheltered childhood. People have grown up in trauma and disaster. And my heart goes out to, I pray for those people every day that they find peace in their life. I really do. I just think that when we watch TV, when we watch this stuff, take the 50s and 60s, none of this stuff was allowed in movies and TV. It was kept pure and clean, and it did well. But now you turn on and boost those ratings. Let's have everybody get naked, or let's have us, you know, an innocent character walking down the street who's happy and you know, get bashed in the head and blood's everywhere on the ground. It's a mystery. You know, no, it's not a mystery. It's. I'm rambling, y'all. That's what I'm doing. I'm rambling right now, but it just, I was driving home the other day and I talked to God. I talked to Jesus when I drive home, and it just broke my heart. And I started tearing up because I thought to myself, why are we so violent as a society today? I just don't get it. I've never have understood it. So that's me. I just had to get that off my chest because I was just like, I've got to talk about that. But yeah, so again, I will give Velma a shot. I really will. But I don't know. I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan. I look at every little detail when I watch a Scooby-Doo thing. So anyways, that's me. So.
Well, the Scooby community is currently like divided in half right now. And like I said, people are fighting, people are calling each other names, people are blocking each other. And I just don't understand, like, just because you don't like someone else's opinion does not make that other person's opinion invalid. You know, like if you don't like what I'm saying, do you have to block me? No, because I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm telling you that I feel this way. You're entitled to feel however you want. And I'm not going to say anything to you if you love the series and I hate it. Like, you're entitled to your opinion. And good. If you love this series, good. Because, you know, I don't want to see the people that are working on this series fail. You know, Mindy Kaling and these other people are putting their hard work into a series that they feel is going to be good. It's something that they think people want to see. And I don't want to see it fail. You know, I want to see them do good. But again, I don't know that it's something that I'm going to be able to watch. But I know that there's a ton of other people that like Scooby-Doo that are going to watch it because they've been waiting for years for an adult named Scooby. Does anybody else have anything that they want to say?
I do kind of want to respond just to a few points that Cam said, because I think it's really important when we talk about representation, as well as when we talk about old Scooby-Doo content and representation. Just a few points. When it comes to representation of people of color in Scooby-Doo, it has historically actually been very bad. It exists. Yes, there are people of color that exist in previous Scooby-Doo content in the past, but early 70s, 80s has not been kind when it comes to that. And we've discovered that on the Scoobcast and when I've listened to podcasts that review Scooby-Doo content like that. A really good example, well, two good examples from Where Are You? And then a third one that I'll point out. The decoy for a dog napper right now to this day would not be regarded as a very well representation of Native American people. The mystery mask mix up would not be regarded as a really good representation of Asian or Chinese people. And then there's episodes, I don't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but there was a beauty pageant episode in the 80s where it was Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy, where, you know, all these women were representing different countries. And they had a Black woman who was representing Africa, the continent of Africa, not a country. Like it was a very racist thing. So when we talk about like, yeah, the people of color have existed in Scooby-Doo forever, that's true, but that doesn't mean it was good representation. When it comes to LGBTQ representation, me coming from this as a gay man, I think that representation matters a lot even in that regard. People have wanted Velma for a very long time to really lean into, you know, her being, you know, lesbian or bisexual by fan demand, because everybody's always kind of regarded her as such since the very beginning. And I think that that really means a lot to lesbian, bisexual women and girls who do want to see that kind of character. And like, you know, you have a good point, you know, make a new character, but they haven't done a good job of that when they've tried. They've tried it in the Scooby Apocalypse comics in a really subtle, piss poor way. They hinted at it a little bit in Mystery Incorporated, but Mindy Kaling even said it herself that she loves Velma and she really wants to try and represent her own culture in a way with her love of Velma by imbuing her own race and culture through the character in this representation right now. And then with the LGBTQ context of it is even broader representation for fans like me who don't see a lot of that in cartoons that we've loved since we were kids. I've wanted to see a gay character in Scooby-Doo for a very long time. And unfortunately, it just hasn't happened. And I'm not saying that Scooby-Doo is devalued or not good because it doesn't exist, but at the same time, when it does happen, there's a lot of impact for fans who do represent and identify that way. Even last year when the official Scooby-Doo Instagram page released a pride image, it was like Scooby holding like rainbow balloons. That made my heart grow so big. I was like, oh, that meant so much to me as a person of the LGBT community, because that really meant a lot to this is something that I have loved since I was a child, and they're showing the love back. They're acknowledging that I exist and that I exist as a Scooby-Doo fan. And then when we're seeing content like the Daphne and Velma books now, where they're kind of leaning into that a little bit, or this, where they're going to lean into that even more, it means a lot to a lot of people. And I'm not saying that, I'm not calling you racist, Cam, or homophobic or anything.
No, hey, you know what?
I just wanted to stress that I wasn't.
We're all adults here. I get
to your point. Okay. I just wanted to stress that I'm not
attacking. No, hey, you're good.
You're good. But when I do think about a lot of Scooby-Doo fans who are very prominent in the fandom, if you look across the board, a lot of us are white. It's kind of a fact. I don't see a very big number of fans who are people of color who are really big voices in the community. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, and I would love to see that more. But then we can't really relate to fans who are not white, who want to see that racial representation in Scooby-Doo in that sense. And this being that step, because Hayley Kiyoko playing Velma was good, but she's also passing white to an extent. When I was a kid, I didn't really even realize that she was Asian. Her skin was of a complexion to where I was oh yeah, it's just another girl playing Velma. I didn't think about it. But this character that we're going to be seeing in this new Velma series is a lot more striking, because this is a lot more not passing white. This is a person of color who is really a person of color for the sake of it, because we really want to see how that can change the story and change the character. Several years ago, I didn't disagree with you, Cam. I also held the opinion where, why are we tweaking characters that already exist and have this kind of representation as who they are? But then as I've kind of looked at it over time, and I've really seen how representation for LGBT people means a lot to me, it makes me realize how much racial representation means to other people. And I think that seeing that in Scooby-Doo content is a really good thing. And I really hate to see the racism that we are seeing on social media, because I think it's going to be such a good thing for Scooby-Doo fans who don't feel represented yet, who just don't see it yet. And that excites me a lot more than the gore or the darker story going on here. The fact that there's going to be an LGBT POC character as Velma, that's kind of exciting to me, and I hope it is to other people. So that was just my response to it. It's just for one, yeah, Scooby-Doo has people of color, but it has not historically been good, and this is going to mean a lot to a lot of people, even if it's not the wholesome regular Scooby-Doo that we always see.
Right.
It's going to mean something to somebody.
No, for sure. And you know what? You bring up good points. And you know what? As in the past, would some of those things be appropriate today, with people of color? No, it wouldn't be. And I see we are there. I will say, as far as I want to keep sexuality as Scooby-Doo, period. I don't even like when a man's kissing a woman on a cartoon. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying, oh, I don't want to see a man kiss. And it's not that. I just don't want to see any. When I watch Scooby-Doo, I just want to see the mystery get solved. You know what I mean?
We've
And
had
me
that
and Kate-
conversation a little bit when we talked about relationships and Scooby.
right. So
Yeah.
you know that's where I'm coming from as a fact. It's hard to say, you know what I mean, because here we are as four adults and we have differing opinions, and I'm glad that we can be adults and talk about it. You know, that's just my biggest thing is you know, keeping sexuality of cartoons, and you know, the only thing I can say right now that I respect about the Velma series is that they put a rated R label on it, and that they said this is going to be an adult series. That's,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that
you know what I mean?
Since the very beginning, everyone knew it was going to be an adult project.
And I really don't have a problem with Velma. I have a problem more with the violence, and more of a problem with sexuality. Like I have more of a problem with that because. But I don't have a problem with the color because, like you said, we've seen Velma be more East Asian in the two live action Scooby-Doo movies on Cartoon Network, you know, The Mystery Begins and Curse of the Lake Monster. And then we saw her of Latino origin on Scoob. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's right. She was. That's correct.
She was. And it really didn't bother me. When I was watching Scoob. And
actually,
when I looked,
Daphne's half black in the Daphne and Velma movie. Fun fact.
Oh, I didn't even know that. But anyways, there you go. Fun fact. But then even in when I saw this image too, like my mind didn't go to, oh, you know, why is Velma a different color? I mean, it really didn't. What just kind of shocked me is like, why is there a girl laying there with her head hollow and a brain on the ground? And I hope that was not Daphne right there with, you know, soap suds all over her body that was covering up. You know what I mean? That's what shocked me the most. So anyways, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like they totally, and I could be totally wrong because we haven't seen an episode yet, but I feel like they've taken Velma and they've taken everything that makes her Velma and they've given her like this colorful past, and you know, are put like the whole point of it, I guess, is to put her in these situations that, you know, the Velma that we know would not do that. Like, that's not her. Yeah. So to me, it's hard for me to wrap my head around they're changing her whole personality, but keeping her name. But she's still in high school. Like, I feel like I might be able to wrap my head around it more if this was later after high school. And, you know, because you know, when you're in high school, you're still figuring out who you are, and you're probably doing that until you're 25, 30, some people 40. But, you know, if they would have made her in her 20s, then that drastic change of personality and the change in, you know, she's had all these things that have happened to her that, you know, to me, Velma hasn't gone through all these crazy things. So that's my issue with.
I mean, but we also don't know what those crazy things are yet.
Right.
We don't know what her personality is yet.
Right. We really don't. And I'm just basing it on what I've read, you know, what they've released so far. And again, she could be like a great character that is truly based on Velma that, you know, we don't know. But unfortunately, we all form opinions based on things that we read, an image that we see. And, you know, like you had brought up, Derek, with Scoob, they released that image a year before they actually released the show. So for a year, people were upset about the Be Cool Scooby-Doo animation and had no idea what the show itself was going to be. And, you know, I personally really like that show. I think the writing is really good. I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah, Shannon, I remember Shannon not looking forward to it when I showed her that image. She goes, oh, I'm going to hate it. And then we watched the first episode when it aired on Cartoon Network, and she goes, I hate to say it, but that was actually really good. I'm like, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know Wendy's chomping at the bit to say something.
I know. I was looking at Wendy and I was going to say, Wendy, do you want to say anything?
But real quick before Wendy, I just gotta say one thing, Wendy. One thing that, you know, I guess that I'm kind of having a little problem with is over the 50 years, everybody's always saying, oh, this origin story, oh, this origin story, oh, this origin story. You look at Scooby-Doo, there's been like 3 or 4 different origin stories.
There's been many origin stories.
Yeah, so I'm just like, and they're like, this is Velma's origin story. And I'm like, if you watch some episodes, of all the series that's ever premiered, like we do get a little bit of origins about them. So I'm like, why are we changing up origin stories? I guess that's where it's confusing me. I'm just like, oh my God, then you think about the multiverse, you know, theory, and that's a different conversation for
Well,
different.
it's become a meme with Batman. Like every Batman movie that comes out, everybody's like, "Oh, are we gonna see Bruce Wayne's parents?"
Yeah, and there's like different,
again?
Yeah. Anyways, Wendy, I'm turning it over to you. Go for it.
No, I don't really have anything profound to say. I was just going to say that I kind of think that everything that was just said is actually why from the beginning Scooby-Doo was so generic. Because there are always going to be people. There are so many people, and there's 7 billion people on the planet. There are countless different, like I don't even like saying groups, because I honestly feel like a huge problem, especially today, is that at a time where we should be looking at each other as other human beings and taking us out of boxes and realizing that we're all in one giant box called Earth and we're all the same. So I feel like we're putting ourselves in more boxes than ever before. And everyone wants to, you know, we don't make us a minority, but we also don't want to be part of the majority either. And that goes for like pretty much every single group that exists right now. Everyone is like, well, I want to be an individual, but I want to be accepted in the whole. And I'm like, I feel like, honestly, there's never been a time where people are more apt to divide themselves. And I'm like, damn it, are we not at a place yet where we can't just look at each other and not see any gender or race or religion or any of that stuff and just be like, hey, there's another human being like me. All of that stuff is completely irrelevant to how I'm going to treat them. Because at the end of the day, you should be treating everyone the way that you want to be treated, regardless of any specific. I don't care what the specific is. You should be treating everybody the way that you would like to be treated. And I'm sad that we're still putting people in boxes and putting ourselves into boxes and things like that. And so I think that with so many boxes, for lack of a better way of describing what I mean, people that are of like mind for something, whatever that thing is, it doesn't matter what it is. There are so many of them that I think why Scooby lasted so long is because it is deliberately generic. You can use your imagination and you can turn those characters in your mind into whatever you want them to be. But they are so vanilla and they are so, like, I don't like that word bland because that has like such a negative connotation today. I think that all of the gang members in the original series have plenty of personality. I'm a boring person too, so I don't mind watching boring cartoon characters. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not fancy and exciting either, so it works for me. But I just think that there's no way to represent everything. I mean, I think Cam, I think this is something that people neglect. You know what I mean? There's definitely like certain groups that have more of a voice than others, or that are more apt to speak up. Let's maybe put it that way. My time growing up, I can honestly say that I was never looking to be represented in what I was watching. As an adult, I'm still not looking for representation, but you know, it kind of gets on my nerves that people are so gung-ho for certain things that they don't even see what's being done to others. I am a Christian. I'm not a racist. I'm not a bigot. I think that hey, I don't care what you are, I am going to treat you the way that I want to be treated. When I turn on the television, do you know what kind of Christian representation I see? Priests who diddle little boys, Christian women that are the worst kind of Southern stereotype, loudmouth, cult leaders, all of these very, very negative connotations that are attached to my religion. And you know what? I'm offended. And nobody gives a damn that I'm offended by that. Nobody gives a damn. And I feel like I don't even look, I don't turn on the TV and think, where's my Christian character that's not an asshole? I don't. Because honestly, I don't need my life projected back to me in my entertainment. I am who and what I am. And I'm proud of that. I'm not ashamed of it. If other people aren't, good for you. That's up to you. I will respect your choices, but I expect you to respect mine. And I just want to watch something that's going to make me forget that life is crap good majority of the time. So I think it would be really hard to properly show everybody in every single piece of entertainment, which is why I think that it's wonderful when I was a kid, one of my favorite, like, I don't really like things that are comedy related. It's just not my bag. There are some like series that are meant to be funny. And when I was a kid, I would run home from school to watch Family Matters with Steve Urkel, and I love the actor Reginald Val Johnson, who played the dad on that. Guys, that cast of that show is like 99.9% Black. When I was a kid, that never even entered my mind that there were like hardly any people that were my color on that show. I just loved the show. It was funny. The actors were good. I don't ever remember there being an actor that was like subpar, like just wasn't a good actor. You know what I mean? I don't remember ever watching an episode where like somebody sucked at their job. The writing was great. The sets were great. The characters had such wonderful chemistry. The stories were funny. Sometimes they were heartfelt. You know what I mean? I was heartbroken on a day where like the bus got delayed or something and I missed watching Family Matters because I loved it so much. I never even thought about what color somebody was because it didn't matter. My parents didn't like sit me down and were like, okay, well, you're white and those people are Black, so you're different. No, we're not different. We're all people and we all have feelings and we all feel pain and we all feel happiness. And I would never want to see them remake that show, and this is an interesting point too. As far as what color Velma is in this series, again, I kind of didn't even really look at it. I like the idea of if you have a character, like leave them alone. And I don't really like changing things, but whatever, like I don't have a problem with what they're doing either. But I would just like to present this situation. I think that there would be a bigger stink if you took a character that was historically Black and tried to turn them into a white character. I think there would be like a crucifixion going on. So, which would not be right
I just don't
either.
think that's not really an equal situation though.
Why
to be
not?
honest.
Why?
The thing is, so I don't want to start an argument at all, but I do think that one point that you made that I think that we all forget when it comes to representation is when we think to ourselves, all of us here, being white people, is that, we don't really look for representation in that way. It's because we haven't had to. There's been no shortage of content that reflects white people in a non-offensive or not tasteful way. But when we think about Scooby-Doo, for instance, where it has, you know, in the past not done such a good job representing people of color in that way, that unfortunately, you know, is bad representation. So good representation matters. And we haven't, as white people, necessarily had to worry about that because there's been no shortage of it. And then when it comes to, and I see the logic there, you know, all races being equal and everything. So like, why is one good and one bad? I also used to think that way too. I think that when it comes to this kind of situation, it's more of, we're taking a good opportunity to really tell a story that exists, but putting it in a different lens that is not represented as much, as opposed to the opposite scenario where we take characters who are of a minority situation where we don't see a lot of good representation in that race, and we're flipping the page and making them white just for the sake of it, when there's no shortage of that representation there. Because there's no shortage of representation of good white people on TV. That's one of the response. That I've heard that argument before, so I just wanted to voice that.
Okay, well, as long as you don't, I mean, it's not just the race. See, this is where I think that people they're like, okay, well, race is one thing, and then all of the other things that can be discriminated against is something else. And I'm like, no, discrimination is discrimination, whether it's for your skin color, your religion, your beliefs, whatever, you know what I mean? All of those things. So as I said, whether I'm white or black, as a Christian, there is a huge lack of positive representation in entertainment. So that's where I'm coming from, where people today, I feel like they want to say that, you know, racism, I've literally seen this all over social media, that racism only works one way, that white against black is racist, but black against white isn't. And I'm like, excuse me, racism is colorblind. It's racist either way, and both ways are wrong. Judging anybody on their color of their skin, regardless of which way it's going, is wrong. That's not a good way to be, because it doesn't matter. Underneath that skin, you are the same. No one is better than anybody else. And we need to stop thinking that we're better than other people, because we're not. At the end of the day, we are all the same. We're born, we live, and we're gonna die. Everybody. No matter what differences you might have. And so this, like, thinking that, well, I have a right to be offended, but you don't, or you know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of that, because everyone at some point in time has faced some form of discrimination, has faced some form of pain in their life, and we shouldn't belittle anybody's pain. And I see that a lot, where people I guess in an effort to have their pain felt, they feel like they need to belittle somebody else's. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. There's enough pain to go around. Seriously, guys, like, you can feel pain and I can feel pain, and it's not a competition, like, well, whose pain is worse? Nobody's pain is better or worse. Pain is pain, and it sucks. And we should be trying to, like, lessen the pain that we're giving to other people. You know, because at the end of the day, we're hurting each other. It's not like outside forces hurting us. It's us hurting each other. And that is so wrong. And it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. We don't need to be hurting each other over anything. You know, it's just not, like, stop it. Recognize that everybody is hurting, and that everybody needs support, and that everybody needs help. And don't criticize people if, when they try to do it, they don't do it the way that you think that they should. You know, like, too many pointing fingers all the time, and everyone is trying to justify it, and none of it's justifiable if you need to bring somebody else down in order to bring yourself up. You know, and I see it, and I see it, and I see it, and I'm like, oh, it just sucks. Because life could be so much nicer. It just really doesn't have to be like that. All of the fighting over stuff that, I mean, I know it doesn't seem petty to us in the moment, but it is petty. What is more petty than hating somebody because the color of their skin is different? What is more petty than that? Nothing. That's disgusting. That's horrible. That is horrible. Even the animals don't do that. Even animals behave better. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that everybody is going to like everybody else, but whether you like somebody or not is based on like what they're doing in here and what they're doing up here, not this. This is so irrelevant. It's not even funny. If you stripped all of our skin off and you left us as like skeletons and meat, you couldn't tell us apart. We look exactly the same. Our bodies work the same way. They break down the same way. So we can be one people that are made up of different people, but we need to stop thinking of ourselves in terms of like, how are we different? How are we different? I am more than happy to watch a show with things and people that are different than me. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But don't pick and choose which people are worth being represented. There's so much like anti-white hate on social media, and it's being done just for the sake of doing it, because like you don't need to bring down the white in order to bring up the color. But that's the way that a lot of people are approaching it, and I'm like, this is why it never works. Because you're just doing the same thing that you're criticizing, and you don't realize it because you're hurt and you think that you're justified in doing it. And people on every side of that spectrum are doing this. Every single spectrum is doing it. And we need to stop. It's that simple. We need to stop, or it will never end. It will never end. There will always be these divisions that turn into things that are really bad. Really, really bad. You know, it's one thing for people to like disagree on social media and get pissed off and like, I'm going to block you, or I'm never going to talk to you again. But unfortunately, history has shown us that those little things, they start small, but man, those can snowball, and it turns into grown adults killing each other over the most petty shit imaginable. And nobody wins when that happens. So we need to quit diversifying everything. It's fine for people to have their differences, but like, let's build up the similarity and let the differences be the thing that is just, I don't want to say for fun. For fun is not the right term, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't walk down the street when I go to town and stop every person and be like, do you like Scooby-Doo? Because if you don't, I'm not going to say good morning to you. Like, no, I'm gonna, I mean, it's
I might
nice
not
if,
say good morning if you say no, but
but you see, that's why you don't ask.
yeah,
Better to just not even ask and be like, hi, how are you? And keep going. That's
And
the
the-
whole point. It's better sometimes not to know. Be like, hey, maybe we're different. Maybe we're the same. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Have a nice day. Bless you. Go do something fun. You know what I mean? And like, leave it at that. And when we go home, we do our own thing, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? And do it free of judgment or negativity, you know? And when we get together, we can be friends and everything. Like, I don't know. I feel like that is something that is attainable. I really do. And it's just so frustrating to see it fail time and time again when it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be like that.
I'll build on what you said when it comes to like building up or holding up the similarities. And I think that's ultimately what this show is going to do, because it's going to build up the LGBT and people of color who are big Scooby-Doo fans, because they finally get to see that representation to where we can all be like, wow, we are all different, but we all really love Velma and we love Scooby-Doo. And that's why all of us are here right now. So yeah. Just to build on what you said.
Well, for now, we just have to go by our first impression, and there is no release date yet. So whenever it does get released, you know, either give it a chance or don't. It's up to you. But at least allow everybody to have their own opinion, to express their opinion without feeling like they're being attacked. You know, your opinion is valid, their opinion is valid. Just everyone can have an opinion and everyone can still get along.
Just be respectful.
Right.
That's why we're off.
We're going to wrap things up. You can find all of our links in the description below, and let us know in the comments respectfully what your thoughts are on the Velma series that's coming out. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of the Scooby Panel.